So we're about to move on to our second panel of speakers session, and this time is a different topic, but what are the synergies for the arts and culture business in the frame of sustainable development? Now, we always talk about in entrepreneurship and in terms of you creative entrepreneurs, we always want to do something that is sustainable, something that's not a flash in the pan, something that will last a good long time to come, so it can create a revenue stream and it can sort of feed the needs to the market that you're trying, in terms of that market that you're trying to service. So very much again, our moderator for this one is Dr. Ann Lee, and I said this morning and I'll say it again. Thank you, Dr. Ann, for staying with us in the morning and in the afternoon sessions. For those of you who missed out when I introduced Dr. Ann today, just to sum it up, and this is a bit of an insult to Dr. Ann because she's got such a great CV. Dr. Ann is a PhD holder and an award-winning playwright and researcher. She's worked with many industries, including banking and finance, in terms of how to generate revenue streams and how to improve ecosystems and industries. So she's very, and I know she's looking at me funnily now. She goes, "Do I do that?" She goes, "Yes, you do that." I mean, again, your CV is mighty impressive. So I'll just throw it over to Dr. Ann to take it away for this another great creative topic. Over to you, Dr. Ann. Sorry, Dr. Ann, you're still on mute. Yep, we all do it. Don't worry, we all do it. I do it 700 times a day.
The roti jala got to me. Okay, hope everybody's had lunch. Thank you very much, Ben, for your introduction. And for that, moving to our panel from that last presentation, which is so clearly on the UN Sustainability Development Goal. In our case, we'll be looking at sort of, in a way, kind of how are these development goals, which, I mean, if you've just joined, the UN has 17 sustainability development goals. And they range from, the first is poverty, the 11th is sustainable cities and communities. And really, I think, I mean, if anyone can, you're not supposed to be able to remember beyond 7, right? But 17 meaning that, these are ways in which we try to understand and value, other than a straightforward sort of GDP kind of in a very conventional definition, in a very conventional sense. I think the SDGs are being kind of, you connect, nothing specifically mentions arts and culture per se, and disability is not there, and also, the goals are for the queering as well. But in this panel, we're going to talk to 3 speakers who will give us their kind of interpretation, really, of how they are meeting within, what kind of value has the SDG framework worked for them. And I think I will, some of you will be very familiar with the first person. Shahira Ahmad Bazari is the managing director of Yayasan Hasanah. And of course, Yayasan Hasanah is the impact-based foundation of Khazanah Nasional Berhad, the sovereign wealth fund of Malaysia. Both Khazanah and Hasanah drive a nation-building agenda to progress Malaysia as a globally competitive nation within the financial, economic, and social spheres. As trustee and MD, Shahira works together with a network of civil society partner organizations to create positive, long-term, and sustainable impact within Malaysia's social, environmental, and community landscapes. And Hasanah invests in 5 areas, but I think I will leave that for Shahira to tell us more. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you for that elaborate introduction. It's lovely to be here. Unfortunately, I can't see all of you personally and directly, but thank you for participating in the forum. And I think it's quite nice that the session continued right after Think City's sharing, Think City being one of our sort of flagship grantees. We're very proud of all of the work that they're doing, and they help us meet the SDG 11 targets and goals, because they are right on spot with livable cities, and so on and so forth. So you've heard some of the work that Tin City, the amazing work that Tin City is doing, and I'll be sharing slightly different, or what else do we do in the area of arts and culture. Next slide, please. So just very quickly, I think Anne has mentioned this, and we were set up, Hasanah was set up as an independent entity on 5th of July 2015. We are funded under an endowment structure, which enables us to be long-term, which enables us to have a long-term view about our investments and our projects and our initiatives. And I think another important point about Hasanah is, beyond being a grant maker, we work a lot in building the capacity of the ecosystem and building capabilities and capacities of civil society and the ecosystem in general, so that we can be a more progressive and a more proactive partners of growth and development together with government and the country. So we've funded or worked with about 63 civil society partners, funded about 100 projects over the years. Next. And specifically in the arts, there's just so much to do, right? I mean, you've heard it, right? You've heard all the different verticals, all of the different things that needs to get done. In the last sort of 5 years, we were trying to kind of grasp as well in terms of where can we get the biggest bang for the buck in that sense, you know, and being very clear about the mandate that Hasanah has in helping not just vulnerable communities, but also kind of bringing forth and bringing to life our arts, culture and heritage. So in the past 5 years, you know, we have spotted initiatives and projects almost in every state in Malaysia. About 61,000 people have benefited from the projects and initiatives that we've supported, more than 150 art practitioners, and really largely as a foundation that believes very strongly in talent development and human capital development for the country. Talent development in the arts remain one of our key priorities. And you'll see later, I'll be sharing about the importance of education as well in ensuring sustainability in this ecosystem. Next. So I'm just going to get straight on some thoughts and reflections, and then pass it on to the next panel and open to have Q&A. But this has been some of our learnings, right, in the past 5 years in trying to wrap our head around what would be the most optimal way of supporting arts and culture in this country, right? You can do it at the community and civil society and grassroots level, but obviously quite a lot of this, for its sustainability and scale, would require government and system support as well. So this kind of partnership has been ongoing. You know, where we are, you know, we are where we are today. But obviously, you know, we in Hasanah strongly believe there are huge opportunities for this sector. For a country like Malaysia, you know, our cultural diversity is so rich. Why is it not a main economic driver, right? Quite interesting to ponder on that question. And what is it that we need to do to make it become one of our sort of USP, right? Our unique selling proposition in Asia or in the world even, right? Because we're so diverse and beautiful. So one of it is education. We really believe that incorporating certain element of Malaysia's natural cultural heritage education in schools is going to be key. We've been supporting and working with Ministry of Education in trying to kind of figure this out in a way that enables future generation who's probably kind of losing it, right? Because they kind of wired quite differently, this generation. You know, we call them digital natives and so on and so forth. So obviously, how is our cultural heritage going to look like in the future, being carried by this future generation? You know, whether there's going to be technological innovation or whatever, but the base understanding of it needs to continue. Are we doing enough in our schools, right? It's a key question that we need to ask. So on the right, you'll see some case studies. Just a little bit about Satya Chitta basically was a thought that we had, and we worked with a partner to develop key sort of knowledge to, I mean, you know, like for example, wow and kite making, and how that is, there's so much science and mathematics and understanding and creativity and all of that in creating the wow, for example. Or even like, why do olden days houses have got their natural ventilation systems, for example, you know? Just a lot of this wisdom around our own heritage that the kids are actually being exposed to then think about what is valuable around them. So Satya Chitta, the aim is to get this program to be endorsed co-curriculum program in our national schools. And I think despite the pandemic, Alhamdulillah, we did get it accepted by MOE recently to kind of roll out Satya Chitta as a co-curriculum in national schools in Malaysia. But this is just one initiative. There's so much more that we need to do. Secondly is art as a priority. I did speak about it. And you know, we started off pre-independence. The arts was actually placed in the welfare ministry. It has also gone to the youth and sports ministry. Currently it sits with the Ministry of Tourism. With, I mean, you know, in linking this to business, I think there are huge opportunities still to maximize and optimize the sort of commercial component of our arts and culture. And I think we commissioned a study actually together with Cendana some time back, I think a couple of years ago, and Think City. And those are the numbers, right? The sector is estimated to have contributed 11.2 billion ringgit in 2016 and has the potential of reaching close to 20 billion ringgit by 2022. Obviously, this includes museums, crafts, films, animation, and so on and so forth. But still, you know, have we fully optimized the sector? And the third point is that for this sector to be truly optimized, it requires structures. It requires some kind of a governance structure and support. You know, I think young Malaysians are often discouraged from pursuing a career in the arts for reasons of financial instability, poor societal perception, and so on and so forth. And we need to correct that. And we need a structured support for artists and artisans. I think quite a number of us in this forum have been working with government very closely, looking at tax incentives, looking at how can we streamline sort of the sector. First of all, is it in the right ministry to begin with? Do we need a dedicated ministry? I know some countries in Asia where we have arts together with education, right? And the love for the arts needs to be built, you know, in the future generation. So these are just some reflections. I will leave it at that and you know, open up for conversations as we end. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before I introduce the next speaker, can you, in a way, sort of outline for us? I mean, this is the question, isn't it? Moving forward, it seems like there's so much strategic thinking that has gone into and investment with a 3 billion ringgit endowment this is a kind of, I mean, the ratio of private and public sector funding to enable whichever is the definition of the creative economy or the creative industry, and which parts of it are divided between, so far, between sort of Cendana and my creative ventures. The way, how has this thinking been changed in terms of immediate needs? So for moving forward from, you know, the impact of COVID-19 and into next year, what kind of changes have had to happen to the plans, the immediate plans?
Yeah, I think what has happened is obviously the sector got deprioritized. There were so many other things that, you know, were seen as essential and therefore got completely deprioritized. And I'm sure people in the sector would agree that this has affected them as well in terms of getting deprioritized. But, you know, the arts and culture is It's just, I mean, you won't miss it, but I mean, it's almost like somebody says it's a, you categorize it as a non-essential, but it's actually a non-essential essential, right? It's like you need it. You need it. People are feeling down. The mental health and well-being of individuals highly affected right now. I mean, each and every one of us. I mean, at minimum, we're having cabin fever, being locked in. You know, we did see quite a lot of initiatives. I think we saw, was it Broadway or was it? You know, we all had free shows that was coming to our living rooms that we could watch for a limited period of time, and those were so healing, right? It had a different impact to you. You cannot deprioritize the arts amidst all of these challenges that we're going through. And I think this is the role that we all are pushing for and trying to kind of say, how can we continue to make art thrive even within the pandemic? And we are already seeing quite a lot of innovation. A lot of our artists are really thinking out of the box and trying to kind of, you know, you miss the touch and feel and that physical thing of being in a theater and things like that. But if I can't be in a theater, fine, you know, I'm quite cool looking at it on my screen, but don't completely deprive me of this content and this, you know, fulfillment of the art. So for us,
I like what you were saying about, sorry. I was just going to say that, you know, your mention of a non-essential essential, I think it's the kind of present dilemma, right? We are sort of, the COVID-19 has acted as an accelerator for a lot of sort of changes. And I think, you know, everybody is, how can the arts and culture be considered non-essential? Well, because perhaps the idea is of the economy, the creative economy and creative industries have not, there's a lot of, certain parties are developing those and articulating those, but whether it's a kind of mainstream understanding, it seems like that's still, there's still somewhere to go.
And I think we should then encourage funders, you know, and holders of capital to actually support those initiatives. You know, I think from the artist community, they are trying to be innovative. They're coming up with a lot of kind of out of the box way. I mean, it is challenging for many of us, not just in the creative industry, right? And for the efforts and initiative of trying to continue to make the sector thrive, I think holders of capital should continue to support and enable, because you don't really know where it's going to go. It's probably going to be good for us. I mean, you never know, right? But if we hold back, then, you know, how is this sector going to continue to thrive? So maybe if it remains a non-essential, but people who sees this as a priority should continue to support it in the interim until it becomes mainstream again. I mean, that would be my sort of, I mean, Hasanah, we're doing quite a number of things. We've just launched our Arts Fest. Despite the festival, it's arts for all season for obvious reasons. Because
so funding available for artists and performing artists and to access those.
It is. So it's from September to December. About 70 to 80% of the content was something that's already being developed. We just wanted to kind of bring forth and, you know, celebrate it in a little bit in a slightly bigger way rather than more sectoral. And you know, and the idea is to then, you know, provide opportunities, you know, motivate the artists again, you know, like, you know, all is not lost, come on, you know, we can do something and we can bring content. And it's amazing because we're seeing so many innovation. People are really kind of trying to figure this out, and I think funders should support that.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Shahira. I think there are more questions towards the end, and when we'll open it up to everyone. I'd like to now introduce Chow Takman, who is head of Yoodo. He spends his time building the brand for the modern customer. He believes that a young brand should engage the customer in their preferred lifestyle segments like esports, active sports, music, and entertainment. He holds, he has held vital roles in strategy, marketing, customer experience, and operations for 18 years in manufacturing. And he studied engineering at the University of Cambridge and obtained his MBA at INSEAD. He likes to have conversations on digitization, enjoys listening to music, and is a fan of musicals. That one, over to you.
Hi. Can I get the slides up? So hi everybody. Thank you for inviting me, and good to see all my fellow panelists. So maybe I'll introduce a bit about Yoodo first, because I think Yoodo may not be all too familiar with, or you may not be too familiar with Yoodo. It's still a pretty new brand. Then I'll talk a bit about how we've been involved in I suppose, the music and creative industry. So Yoodo, it's a brand under Celcom. We're powered by Celcom. It's a unique brand in the sense that it's run independently. So the unique feature of Yoodo is that it's customizable. Basically, you can choose the voice, data, and SMS that you want, and the app itself would calculate the price for you. So for now, we actually have more than 2 million combinations in our app. So everyone can choose their own plan and basically have their own telco line, right? So we term ourselves as the first truly customizable and first fully digital mobile service in Malaysia. Can we go on to the next slide? So before I talk about this slide, Yoodo is basically for the modern consumer, right? Basically the digital natives. I think throughout the session today, we've heard things about the new generation, the Gen Ys, the Gen Zs that are viewing, consuming arts and culture in a different manner. So for us at Yoodo, the modern consumer is one that is both always connected, wanting to have empowerment on things to do on their own, right? And they have certain specific lifestyles or culture that they enjoy and are very passionate about. And that's where Yoodo is involved in, right? We are involved in, like Anne mentioned just now, esports. I think in the esports community, Yoodo, the Yoodo name is already very strong. We've been helping to grow the community, grow the grassroots in terms of esports. Right? I think you will know that we have esports teams. We are involved in competitions. So we've been part of that. We have also started getting involved in active sports, because there's another passion where the digital natives are also, even though they may be digital, they may one day always like their physical sports. So we are involved in that. And of course, the third element is that we are also supportive of the independent music, especially the music industry in Malaysia. And that's why Yoodo has been involved in this. So an example here that I want some of the photos here, you will see like the one down there, you see the community day. What led to that? Well, we have this series called Yoodo Presents, and we sort of had upcoming musicians, right? We had Modscape, we have 7 Collared t-shirts. They wanted they wanted to perform, and then we had this streaming. We had a live streaming every week. So we had about 6 bands live streaming for every week, and we ended the session with on-ground concert. So all 6 bands were invited to a location in Petaling Jaya, where we then held our community day. So we invited our customers, our Yoodoers in a sense, to have a chance to have these unique experiences, right? So that's why we combine both the music and our fans. And of course, we also supported a bit larger, more well-known musicians. Of course, I think people would know Bang Face, Wang Bakshot. We had a series where we had Yoodo Presents Punk Rock Picnic at the end of last year, right? They were relaunching themselves and so on. So we got involved in that. Next page. So there were other things that we got involved in. I think some of you may be familiar with the Tapao show, the Tapao Fest especially. Tapao Fest is an independent festival for independent music and arts. So we got involved in that, and we continue our involvement in terms of the Tapao show. And especially during the MCO and the lockdown period, we also give opportunities to musicians to perform on our live stream, which is the stay-at-home party, right? So these are things that we have been involved in, and we believe that it's been useful and also been beneficial to all 3 parties, both the musicians, Yoodo itself, and also our customers. Yep. That's my introduction, Anne.
Okay, great. Thank you, Tapman. I'm struck by 2 things. The brand code says, we challenge the status quo, we throw out the rules, and we make our own rules. In what in what way do you position brand development to in the context of a sustainable development goal? I mean, how critical, how do you make those two sort of frameworks fit?
Well, in all honesty, we didn't think along the line of SDGs, to be honest with you. But I suppose it does tie in. Basically, we are somewhat a new brand, right? So being a new brand, we have an opportunity to develop it, and we need to build a brand. We need to develop the brand equity, right? So how we looked at this was that what were our target customers like, right? Like I said just now, they are the digital natives, they're the Gen Ys, they're the Gen Zs. And what do they like? They like esports, they like music, and so on. So that's how we started tying it together, right? We thought that, okay, this is a good opportunity to reach out to, I suppose, the community, because I think the independent music community is a pretty strong community, a very passionate bunch. And it ties with our values, right, which is developing a strong community within Yoodo. So I think all this tied together, and that's how we got involved with that.
Okay, and as you mentioned, this first online concert, you had an online concert, and then you had a series of stay-at-home party events. But they're all kind of, you're at home, you're not out at all. There's no kind of concert regular experience. Can you tell us about how what was the response to that? And as a result of the COVID-19 impact, what relationship do you have? Has it deepened or changed at all with the independent musicians?
Well, definitely the COVID situation has changed it slightly. Let's talk about before COVID, when we first had our Yoodo Present series. As mentioned just now, we had live streams, so we had the musicians performing in their houses, in their bedrooms, right? We streamed it live, so probably about half an hour. So we ended up with a concert. That was on the ground, right? So it was in the physical location, but of course, being true to our brand, we also provided a live stream of the physical concert itself. So that was before COVID, right? So I suppose the difference now is that we will not be able to do that physical concert, right? Our stay-at-home event that we did was mainly live stream. When I suppose when everybody first got locked down, when in March and April, I think most of us were not so, this is something new, right? You're going to get locked down. What are you going to do, right? As a telco, we definitely needed to provide good connectivity. I think that's the most important thing. So that's what we did in the first place. But at the same time, being a more youth-centric and digital native kind of brand, we also provided content. We needed to provide content because that's what our customers look out for, right? So as this gave us an opportunity to provide content and music right, via live stream. So we had this stay-at-home party which had music. We had a chef turning up to teach some recipes. We had people coming on board doing gym sessions, right? So we had a whole series running every day for a month or so. But music was one big component, especially independent music.
Okay, and the relationship with coming up with new dynamics between the yourselves and the independent musicians? I mean, has anything changed there?
Not really, because I think we are a brand that is pretty open to new ideas. So when we first engaged with some of these musicians, we said, okay, there's an opportunity, right? Our customers are looking for content. Our customers are looking for new things, new upcoming musicians. Right, you as a musician, an independent musician, of course, you want to get a bit of money from this. You want to get eyeballs from this. So once we had that so-called, we understood each other's value, what each other wanted, right? Then we just got together and brainstormed, right? And what is the best platform? What's the best channel to do this, right? So that's in a sense, to answer your question, there's not much change from the part of working together. Admittedly, like I said, we are missing the on-ground portion because music, I think it's still you still feel the energy when it's on the ground, right?
Yeah. And
so
I
that
think
will be a slight change, but
okay.
Otherwise, in terms of coming up with ideas and so on, we are always open and always discussing whenever there's a collaboration opportunity.
Okay, I see some questions coming for you, Thatman, so we'll get to this later.
Okay.
I'd now like to speak to Professor Joseph Gonzalez. He's head of academic studies for the Master of Fine Arts Dance Program leader at the Hong Kong Academy for Performing Arts. And he was, I mean, he's a bit of a legend, serving as Dean of Dance at Aswara for 17 years, from 1998 to 2015. He's performed himself and choreographed professionally in multiple genres of dance and theatre since 1981. He's an author of books on contemporary dance, and is a choreographer, educator who's driven by social issues. He's been a curator of international festivals, South Korea, he's Southeast Asian Vice President for World Dance Alliance, and so on. I'm very interested, and I think many will be interested to hear from Joseph, to hear of how, as a performer and having worked in education, how then have things developed for what was a dance, dance students at an arts education that was then privatized, and what challenges are they facing now? Thanks, Joseph.
Thank you, Anne. Yes, we go back a long way. So very good to see everybody, very pleased to be on this very esteemed panel to talk about something that I'm always very passionate about. And if there are more ears and eyeballs to hear us, the better. Next slide, please. Thank you. So I want to look at the work I've done through the company that I started in 2011, which was called Ask Dance Company, looking at the needs in Malaysia's environment of the arts, which I felt after years of being able to train dancers at universities and to high levels and professional standards, there were perhaps not enough places for these artists to continue to grow their art. So this is why I decided that we need a company. We need a company that can continue to develop these young artists, similar to companies that exist all over the globe, Cloudgate Dance Theatre, and so on. So with that in mind, and looking at the gaps in Malaysia's environment of performing arts, specifically dance, I felt the need of this company to have a goal and a mission that I was passionate about. Next slide, please. And so in the last 10 years, what we have done is producing 20 artistic productions, both full-length and mixed-bill performances, 30 short works that were showcased at both local and international festivals. We've collaborated with international choreographers through residencies and workshops. Often these choreographers come to us with funding for themselves, so we just have to provide the bodies and the minds that they need to work with. Very importantly, we have worked and helped dancers to continue developing their art through the company. 40 of them nearly trained with and worked with us over a period of, either 1 to actually 10 years. So this is very, very exciting. We've been the subject of 5 postgraduate research studies from America, including Hawaii, Texas, the UK, Australia, New Zealand, and so on. 150 workshops have been conducted nationwide, 300 schools, and at least, and this is hugely important, 10 traditional dancers that were really being sidelined and being marginalized have been brought to 23,000 people. And I want this number to keep growing exponentially. And finally, the next slide, please. We've been supported, and all this has been done through the work of our sponsors and helpers and supporters like Yayasan Sandabi that principally fund Forging Traditions. We have also looked for additional corporate support through Chandana, Kakisani, Creator gave us some money, and also the places like Aswara, Deepak, and KL Performing Arts Centers have given us space to perform, and this is really critical. Next, I would like to look and mention very quickly, next slide please, that in Hong Kong, we have a great synergy between the arts community and government and several corporations coming together to support the major arts companies, the mid-sized companies, the independent artists, venues, and also consistently providing international and local scholarships. I think to mention what we've done that is directly linked to the COVID, although we all faced and we certainly faced a huge financial burden, but we were able to we had to think of how we wanted to bring our art to the people still, and we created this online platform to teach traditional dance, which is ongoing, and I'm very excited about it. So everybody, please come and learn Zapin and Tarinai with us. I'd like to mention two examples that I love, which was Zoom Para, that was driven by Zoom, and also there's a wonderful Malayalam film which is called See You Soon. It was filmed entirely by iPhones, and it was all done within these apartments. So these are great examples, and Hong Kong has a jumping arts screen dance festival now. So digital media is definitely something that we incorporate into our curriculum and into our mindsets. So thank you, and that's it for now, Anne.
Okay, thank you, Joseph. You mentioned for having to shift as a result of COVID-19, because it's kind of like a double whammy, isn't it? It's actually taking arts into a more digital platform. It's really thinking all the kind of cozy arts and culture, kind of like, I don't know, the uncut that sort of people ignored somehow in the name of the bigger, larger film and animation and multimedia that is all taken. Can you just take us into more detail, because we are looking at both micro and the macro picture of how you teach Zapin online? Can you explain, and how, in what way have you had to adapt that for people to follow and partake and participate?
Yes. Firstly, I think I'm not saying that it can completely replace the guru in front of you. I mean, I still love that experience myself, but the fact that we still want to keep doing it. So in the last 8 months in Hong Kong, I've really been very exposed to using online tools to teach. And so we've been exposed to these theories of blended learning. We've been exposed to flipped classrooms. So these ideas are that you send material to students that they have to then engage with. So these could be videos which have to be very detailed and filmed very carefully so that you can see the hands and the legs and the arms and the head and eyeline and so on. So you allow the students a certain amount of time to engage with it themselves. And then there are tutorials where you come online and you have what they call synchronous learning sessions. So we're doing it live and not face-to-face, live through Zoom or through, whichever, Google Meet or so on. And so it's quite a complicated process. And I mean, all credit to the ADC team led by Imran and Kimberly and Rizzi and all these marvelous people I've known for all my life, really, who have really spent so much time working on workbooks, for example, and they send this information out to the students. So you have a lot of material. So here in Hong Kong, we use student learning systems such as Canvas, and there are other systems like Moodle, for example. So you upload the information online, the students get to see it before the classroom, and then they can also talk about it during the class and then later. So we have had to learn how to really teach online and find out what kind of information we need to send. So bite-sized information. You talked about 7 things to remember, Anne. Yeah, so that's the mind, right? So this is the kind of information that we've had to make sure that we send out. We're on a learning trajectory ourselves. Thank you to Saindabi for consistently loving us, but we want more people to love us so we can do all this great job,
So that's how you've managed in terms of the self-financing part of it. I mean, there's the creative challenge of how to take something that is a live form onto a sort of more digital, onto a digital platform. And then in terms of financing the performers, because I think, we've all seen the way in which a performance is then kind of broadcast to the world, but it's free. How then is the dancers were supported as a result of support from Yayasan Saindabi?
Yes, so this is really vital that we understand that this is our bread and butter and this is our life, and we don't want to go around to all the corporates with our with the mindset that we are, pleading for crumbs from the table. The arts is vital, it's critical. Of course, people like you and I, this is our life. So we really need to spread the message and the gospel of loving dance and the arts, you know.
Okay, now I see a number of questions, and I would like to open this up to others. There's something from Keith Come. Now Keith, can Keith come online to ask the question, or I ask for him? Okay, Keith, your question is, does anyone see a way of monetizing online events? Go Keith.
Oh, hi. Yeah, so I was just wondering, because everyone's got to pay the bills at some point, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys who are in the creative industry are definitely, you know, struggling to make ends meet right now. So yes, we can go online to do a lot of things, but at the same time, how would you monetize this so at least some funds actually get back to the performers, to the artists, to the practitioners themselves? Thank you. Thanks, Anne.
All right, thank you, Keith. Who would like to take that? I could ask everyone, actually. Or the obvious person would be Tak Man, perhaps. But I would like everyone to respond. Maybe Tak Man, you go first.
Sure. I think this is not an easy question to answer, because monetizing anything that's online is not so straightforward, and that's why you have YouTube. YouTube is free, right? That it's not so straightforward. So I can just compare with some things that we are doing right currently, which is like, for example, esports, right? An esports live stream, if it's a popular live stream, can be about 50,000 people watching, right? And this is free on Facebook and free on YouTube, right? Would a person pay for that? It's also a difficult question. I'm not sure, right? So if I'm just making a comparison, because I don't really have an answer to it, but I'm just giving a comparison of what you would think about, right? So if you are saying that something that has already a 50,000 audience may not pay for it, it makes it a little bit difficult, right? The second thing to think about then is the platform where it's going to be shown. So if you have, I know of some platforms which will have performances and so on. So some people will pay to get onto that platform. But again, at the end of the day, is the platform well known to everybody, where people even know about it? So you don't have enough mass, right? So that's the thing. So I know I'm not fully answering the question, but I'm just saying that these are the examples, or these are the thinking process in terms of how you would think about whether the customer would be willing to pay for it, and hence whether you're being able to charge for it online.
Okay, that one. Shahira, would you like to speak?
Yeah, I agree. It's not a very easy answer, and I think that landscape is evolving right now. People are kind of trying to figure this out. There are a lot of online content, and I don't know whether, I mean, the traditional form of online content, not the esports and the kind of thing that Takman is doing. The theater guys are kind of doing it online and all of that as well. I don't know if it's an interim, and we go back, or it is going to evolve into the future, the new way of the future. I'm not sure. But as I reflect on some of the kind of call it interim or innovation that happened from March till about now, where we funded Temple of Fine Arts, or some of the other initiatives where, you know, I mean, at the back end, we are funding the artists, right? So that they are able to give you a show, right? But I think what we're asking now is, for those who are enjoying the show, can you pay as well, right? So at the back end, you know, you may have like-minded funders or sponsors or whatever who will support you, but and really, you know, it's really up to our own imagination, honestly. You know, I mean, crowdfunding platforms, if you think about it, you just send something out and say, you know, if you truly love the arts, just donate. Even if it's $5, whatever, you know, we can get a fund going, because there are a lot of people out there who believe and love the arts. But like I said, you know, it's evolving, and I'm sure we will all come up with something exciting, because we just need to, you know.
Yes. I think the sort of, in the first panel session that we had earlier, there was a kind of recognition around the importance of those who are in the private sector and across kind of from various levels various stages of the pipeline, whether it's in arts education through to the sort of product and service end and careers, that everybody needs to kind of be in the same room and brainstorming and sharing ideas and networking. I have to move on. Sorry, Joseph. There's two questions and we're running a bit out of time. There's another question here from Danny Chen. Tuckman, so far your collaboration in music is with indie artists. Is Yoodo open to collaborate with classical music artists or other genres? Is that in line with your brand proposition?
Okay, interesting question. We are always open to explore opportunities. So that's one. We never close down any approach or any opportunities that come about, because in the first place you may think, oh, it's not suitable, but then maybe after discussions we'll find an innovative way of, I suppose, making it work. So to answer that, there's no. But let me tell you about what we would likely look at, right, in terms of collaboration opportunities, right? First thing, we are a digital brand, right? We are the brand that's for the digital natives, for the modern consumer, for the Gen Y and Gen Z. Naturally, being a corporate, right, we do look at the part where will it bring back a bit of the ROI and so on. So it also means that we will look at what is the eyeballs for this, what is the awareness for this, what's the potential reach and activations for this. So these are factors that come into play, right? So it really depends. Like I said, if there is a specific group, a specific genre that helps, that would bring that kind of thing, that we can have that discussion, right? So, and the other part is that we also look at the angle of community. I think if you go to the Yoodo website, we have a very strong community base where I think we're quite different from other telcos, where you see that our community helps each other in terms of replying to questions from the other customer, so that my social media and community manager doesn't have to, they can have a good sleep at night, right? Other people are helping to reply to that. So we have this sense of community, building a community. So again, we look at the angle of whether it will build community, and to support the community in terms of that particular genre. So that's how we look at it. So in the sense that it's not a no, also it's not a yes, but we have to explore it further. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Takman. We've just got 10 minutes left. There's a question from Sean Ghazi for Joseph. A friend of mine who is a choreographer in Germany was granted an €8,000 grant to create work with no timeline and no need to even show any results on the other side. It was important just to try. What would it take to convince the powers that be in our very Asian parent mentality, Malaysia, and Asian parent mentality is inverted commas, that the process is just as important as results and ROI?
Yes, I think this is vital and critical. A really great point, Sean. Who's one of the shining stars of Malaysia, by the way, if you didn't know that already. I think the value of process and the value of research and development is really vital in all forms of art. And I think we need to give everything time to cook before we actually be presented to a paying audience. And I really hope that, there will be room for this kind of research and development in the grant funding abilities. I know Chandana has been very active in, trying to find money for artists to do different things. So this is one of the things I think that would be very useful. I think once about 15 years ago, I think Kakisani had something for young artists that was mentored by an older artist to create work over a period of time, but that was sort of a one-off thing. Since we're running out of time, I want to mention certain things like, that Move that's coming on Netflix that features 5 choreographers, including Akram Khan. So this is something new you might not see normally. People buying tickets for shows. I mean, Andrew Lloyd Webber raised like more than 2 million for Phantom of the Opera, but this is the UK, that we are talking about. And I hope that we can move in that direction too. And MOTAC funded a Gerak Angin Festival for theatre, music and dance that was curated by Datuk Ramli and Puan Sri Sabira Sheikh as well. So that was an opportunity for us to sustain ourselves within this period of time. So I think this was very valuable rethink how we want to market, package, and produce the arts. So yes, Sean, definitely research and development is critical. So hopefully they're listening right now.
Yes, yes, indeed. Okay, there's one question here. Well, it looks like more of a comment, but the question is from Kennedy Anbumani. I'm wondering if there's a way to translate live performing arts for television. Netflix has managed to make it work. So has HBO, Go, and Disney. I know that live performance and the live-in situ audience is a unique thing, and some things are hard to translate as a physical and cognitive experience. Perhaps a live stream or broadcast platform can be set up and arts practitioners can figure out how best to translate the experience. It might be only a temporary measure to ensure that live performing arts can continue to exist. Shahira, can I ask you here to respond to this? Could, something is saying sort of translation for performing arts for television. This is exactly what, Joseph has just kind of really referred to here.
Yeah, yeah.
But within the kind of, idea of, okay, this is now making it available for everybody to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I may not do justice to the question. It's not really my area of specialty, but certainly some very good ideas are coming through. And like Joseph mentioned, the Andrew Lloyd Webber and Phantom of the Opera, my family sat through that set, and we look forward to it. We were so excited about it. Make sure we all sat as a family and watched it. So I think there's all of that opportunity, and then like I said, it's really up to us in terms of how we want to continue to innovate now. And for the longest time, we've come this far, driven really largely, yes, with government support, but also really it's at grassroots, and it's really like-minded individuals and corporations, and that's taken us this far. So I'm quite optimistic that with everything that's going on, we can continue to innovate and think about how we can bring this forward. I was quite intrigued by Sean's comments on unconditional kind of giving and just let them innovate and things like that. Maybe I can comment from a funder's perspective. We are also trying to learn how to do that actually, and actually our first sector is the art sector, because can never get them to fill up the form like on time. Always miss the deadline. In fact, we had to kind of go to our board and say, can we just carve out some amount of money, because there's no way there's going to follow this kind of fixed timeline and things like that.
And what did your board respond?
We did get some money to kind of deploy in an expedient manner, because how the artist community is, they feel like creating something. They come to you like, a month before the show and said, can you help? There's no way that could be fitted into a grant cycle.
Right, right. But it's interesting. Sure. You mentioned R&D, right? I mean, in R&D usually is a sort of specifically funded area that because it's the hit or miss area, but without it, companies, their sort of longevity of brands and so on don't last, do they? I mean, I'm talking about that space. Where is that space within, given that we are talking about creative economy, creative industry, and scaling up things, that there should be space for R&D, because that's where you can make mistakes. I mean, we're still on iPhone 12, I think, because, R&D investment, perhaps if Steve Jobs was still around, there would be some new products as such. But okay, sorry, we're out of time, and I do need to wrap things up. Is there anything else you would like to say? Just last comments about this COVID-19 and how we're going to move forward, both on the kind of, because you have presented micro examples, and of course, Shahira, you have, really a very macro picture here. But any last comments, either for artists or for private sector companies to create better synergies going forward?
I think, Anne, for the artists, it'll be a good time for us to think of various means and alternatives. Not that we want to completely get get rid of the experience of being in a theater or in an open space watching a show. We love that. We want that visceral experience of the art. But I think it's really nice to add other layers to our creative process. So that's what I'd like to say.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to close with that. Thank you very much for participating in the panel, everybody. And thank you for attending. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Thanks for having
Bye.
us. Bye-bye.
Thank you.